Hi,
Hello.
I'm Lee, and I want to be in the sequel.
And I'm Nathan, and I'd rather be killed off.
And you're listening to
They're Here.
podcast.
A discussion
A disembowelment
of all things.
horror
Fear.
and the macabre. Today we'll be speaking about William Friedkin's classic, The Exorcist, based on the William Peter Blatty novel of the same name.
Super amazing. I'm so excited for this because today we both have a very special guest, my mom. Hi, Mom.
Howdy, guys. How are you today?
Captain Howdy.
Did you get that there?
Not
Yeah.
to fancy.
Not the... So, today I have my mom with me, the most influential person, I mean, apart from you, obviously, that has been, like, you know, just the biggest decision-making process with anything that I've ever watched when I was younger. I mean, most of the time, you turned around and were like, yeah, just throw on that. It'll keep you thing for an hour so I can drink some more wine.
Yes, well, actually, there was a method in my madness, you know. Get the kids out of the way for an hour or two so I could have a glass of wine, a cigarette, and watch the kids go crazy inside and say,
Just leave them.
leave them. They're fine.
End up being mentally scarred for the rest of
Well,
my
it
life.
worked 20-something odd years later. You're still here talking about horror, though.
Was that another age joke?
Whatever. So
Ding.
sensitive. Some people are so touchy.
You know what I loved about the part when I'd send you inside to watch? You'd be sitting there and your mouth's a big, wide open and totally enthralled.
Oh yeah, facial expressions
Oh,
are
yeah.
completely
Yeah.
lost. You'll have to
And
describe
the
them.
place would be burning around outside.
What is that girl doing with that crucifix? Yeah.
Oh, it's fine, guys. Just keep watching.
You'll learn that later. So, straight away, The Exorcist, we open on, actually, differentiation here. I watched the cinematic cut. You
And
guys
I watched the director's cut.
Yeah.
Slight variation there, where the director's cut opens up on a pan shot of Reagan's room and then pans to North Iraq. Whereas the thing I watched opens straight up on that, like, roaring red hot sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Then we pan over to... we get to a dig site where a discovery has been made, and we're introduced to Max von Sydow's Father Keras, or Father Merrin.
It's so good.
So we open up in northern Iraq at a dig site where we meet Max von Sydow's character, Father Merrin. A medal is found amongst some pottery, and he investigates further then to find the head of a Pazuzu statue, our titular villain, not our titular villain, our main villain. Pazuzu.
I mean, this is the one thing that I always started to find confusing about The Exorcist was, obviously, I mean, the name Pazuzu isn't actually, as far as I know, not brought up in the movie
It's not
at
mentioned till
all.
the second movie.
So this is what confused me about it beforehand. So when the statue of Pazuzu is found, and then obviously it says, "Oh, I'm the devil," and you know, blah blah blah. Like right up until obviously if you've read the book, the novel-wise version, then it's mentioned, and then obviously if you've seen the second movie, then it is mentioned to be a Pazuzu. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it was always anticlimactic to name the spirit or the demon as other than the devil, because it sort of makes it like this is not just the devil, it's just some trickster, you know, playing out, you know, human form.
Of course, Pazuzu being a Mesopotamian
wind spirit.
Wind, yeah, he was
Exactly.
the king of the demons, the wind spirit, yeah. Yeah.
And we see that, we actually see, like, wind kind of plays a little bit of a role in the movie.
It does, yeah. It
We
plays
see, like,
when he actually takes the artifacts out of the hole.
Yeah, I say
It also
we have
plays
an actual literal change in the wind.
Yeah.
You see the wind change direction.
And if you notice in the outdoor scene outside the house, before Father Merrin arrives, the wind starts to pick up outside. You can see the leaves beginning. It's as if the demon is getting closer and closer.
Travels on wind.
Yeah. He's travelling closer and closer, yeah. Did you guys know, though, that this was a Christmas film? A Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was released on the 26th of December, 1973.
Jesus.
And you could bring your kids to it. So can you imagine?
Appropriate something for the
I
kids.
yeah,
have
of course,
gotten you a Christmas present. Here you go. It's a ticket to go and see The Exorcist. Oh, thank you, Grandma. Thank you. And busloads
Catholic
of people
Christmas.
turning up for hours and hours Sometimes they wouldn't even get in.
Wow.
But
that was the cultural zeitgeist at the time.
That is one thing I actually found like super interesting. Like speaking to even like my nanny as well, she was like at the like when it came out is like the effect the movie had on people when it first came out. Because like looking at it now, it seems tame by like today's standards, obviously.
Very.
But like to see like to put yourself in the mindset of like people just hadn't seen stuff like that before. Like when it came out, you know, like. You hear stories of like people fainting, and vomiting, and passing
leaving
out.
the cinema.
They couldn't take it. Yeah. You see all those interviews like post the premiere, and people are like shaking, like they can't even speak. You know?
You know what's so funny about that is some of the guys that I was looking at on YouTube, they were interviewed, and the guy said, "So what's happening now?" Well, I'm going back in to see the rest of it. I just thought, this person is trembling and just can't control themselves and is just after vomiting. And they get up and they say, yeah, I'm going back in to see the rest of the film. Yeah.
That's dedication.
I kind of wish.
Yeah. But it's curiosity more than anything else. It's just blatant curiosity. They don't know what to expect. It's excitement and curiosity at the same time. And laughing at something that's horrifying, but that is... It's a nervous laugh. It's like, well, that's not real. I know that's not real, but yet they're nervous.
Yeah. You're desensitizing.
Yeah, that's like pretty much like the first thing that comes after a big jolt is like that like nervous laugh.
Yeah, it's a nervous laugh.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Am I okay? But like that's one thing like I kind of like we've spoken about before that like I feel like we're kind of spoiled for horror now that like we were born after a time where there was like 100 years of like solid horror that had come out and like we don't get that reaction from horror movies anymore, which I want. Like that's the entire point of a horror movie is to be scared. But like, I wish we had that kind of visceral, like actual physical reaction to a movie. Like we just don't have that anymore.
Yeah,
at least like we don't because we've been so
desensitized.
Exactly.
To it.
But you know what I found in the movie? I in a way I wouldn't class it as a horror movie. It's more of a psychological, supernatural thriller.
Yeah,
because at the point,
it
plays out for what, nearly an hour and a half of the movie.
It's nearly all a medical drama.
It's all a medical drama.
And
then only
story.
the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, there's slight supernatural things that are sprinkled here and there.
Yeah.
But it plays out as a medical drama,
Yeah.
and then for the last 35 minutes at most, it becomes hyper supernatural.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from obviously, the Virgin Mary being defiled in the church, but like apart from that, like it plays out like an Agatha Christie novel. It's a detective story as well in some parts. So
we get like some very very quick flashes of Pazuzu, like blatantly miss it kind of thing. Like you might not even notice it unless you're looking for it.
I just want Pazuzu there. She was.
Of course, it was a she.
Yeah,
it's a female. Yeah.
She was. Who was she again? Eileen Dietz.
She's drunk most of the time.
No. Who you are thinking of is Mercedes McCambridge.
Oh,
now, if you asked me, what was my most terrifying scene right now, not horrific scene but terrifying scene, two different things. If you take the voice out of that movie, it's not terrifying, it's just gross. Right, it's the voice that terrified me throughout the whole lot, and did until today, until I what would you say, did research on Mercedes.
Like you kind of tore it apart.
Yeah. And she had a brilliant voice. She had bronchitis when she was young. She was an alcoholic. She was a chain smoker.
Yeah, because she was like...
Yeah, and she, even now, if you YouTube her, even her voice now, it is...
Like gravel.
And she did all that behind the scenes. So if you were to ask me what was the most... scared me the most, it was the voice. But now when I watch it now, I just say, oh, that's Mercedes, so I don't. And
how are you, Mercedes? How you doing?
And then Eileen Dietz, she was Pazuzu's face. But she also played the part of Reagan in the bed where the vomit scene came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she played that part as well. And also in the 2000 version, when that person is coming down the stairs, that's her as well.
I love that. I love
wow.
it. She just like, "Ugh," and all the blood just like pours out.
Yeah.
It's so hokey though. Like that one scene. It's another thing. Like if you actually pay attention to it, you can see like where the wires are like holding up her dress so that she can walk backwards. But like that's only one of those things you see if you like really like get into it. You know.
That's why I don't think like in the director's cut. I believe it's the director's cut because I didn't see that scene when I was watching it, and come to think of it now, when you do have that scene, it's so far left field.
Oh, it comes out of nowhere.
It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's so far left field, and it's so removed from what is going on right up until that point. Because up until that point, most of what's been going on is the house was cold. You know, she was,
atmospheric
you
stuff.
know, it's atmospheric stuff. And then all of a sudden she's spider walking down the stairs
Yeah.
with blood dripping out of her mouth. And it was so out of left field. So I can understand, like, I mean, obviously for R-rated stuff and things like that, you do need to cut out stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with it, I would still, from an artistic standpoint and a cinematographer standpoint, film student, I would completely cut that sequence out because, like I said, like it plays out like an Agatha Christie novel until like the exorcism actually starts.
Yeah.
Although I think it works for an effective jump scare because like that moment when, because she just finds out
But
that
is
like
it needed? That's my question.
Well, in the original, it was there, but he took it out, and the reason he took it out was because he thought, no, I need to get further into the film to nab it.
Yeah.
You know, he just thought it was too early to have that, to shock people so early in the movie.
Yeah.
They're eased into it by the scene in Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually that temple is still, it's there. It's a sun worship, pre-Christian sun worship temple. So they were eased into it, and then they're cut from a beautiful bright place into a dark place.
Into a
and
dark
then
room.
into a Georgetown, and then
Everything
into this
becomes sterile
Yeah.
and
so
clinical almost. Clinical almost.
Yeah. So to all of a sudden have Reagan coming down the stairs.
Yeah.
The
It just
director
feels
just
out
thought,
of place.
no,
It's out of place.
too early. It's
it
way
just
too
kind of
early.
come out of nowhere because you get that like real somber moment. Spoiler alert: Burke dies.
Yeah.
Where she finds out that Burke, the director, she's been like with. Because wait, hold on, I have the quote there where it's what does she say?
Showed me the receipts.
Quote. She says Burke just comes around because Mommy's bored and ain't got nothing else to do. Lol. When Reagan is like, you can invite Burke if you want to my birthday party or whatever like that. You obviously love him. Once we find out that Burke has died, it's kind of like this big somber scene that she's already kind of like being distraught because she's like tried all these things and nothing is working. You can see that she's been crying.
Oh,
Yeah.
And she turns into the wall, and then you can see like that's when the spider walk scene comes.
Yeah.
But it comes out of completely nowhere.
Yeah.
And like this sting, the music like freaked me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause it's so completely out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was
I
like
love that
dragging
film.
of piano. Was it piano strings?
No,
or
I think it was
violin
strings.
Yeah, it's literally
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Violin
like
strings,
it's
yeah.
real harsh with like
Yeah.
astringent music. I loved that.
Yeah. Just you know the actual poster
Yeah.
Yeah.
for that. I found out that it was who was it? They scoured all the books for artists and that, and museums and that, and it is actually a Rene Magritte picture of light. So he has all these lovely silhouettes of lamps and houses in the back with this light. So they got that from that. It took them two nights to do that scene of the priest outside.
Yeah.
It works. It's like
It's the
even
iconic
above,
moment.
Yeah.
exactly.
So-
even above Reagan, it's like the iconic.
Yeah, it is.
kind of
And
picture.
nothing else would have done it.
No,
No,
like it's
nothing
the
else.
cover. It's the cover even for like Prince of the books that came out after the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that like iconic piece right
Yeah.
there with the light right outside the house.
Yeah.
Very strong.
It's gorgeous though. Really, really gorgeous.
I do wanted to talk about the opening scene, like you mentioned earlier, as like because we do sort of do a whole panning shots of a lot of things after, because when Father Merrin, when he takes the head of Pazuzu, the small icon, the icon statue, and he goes, I think it's to the museum, or I think it's a small museum, or it's an archaeology department, or of a college or something. And from the moment he leaves that college, because the clock actually stops
That's
in the
right,
college.
yeah.
Yeah.
because the clock stops, and then I think from that moment onwards, it's you. I think you mentioned it earlier.
The frame rate and
the
everything.
frame rate,
yeah,
everything changes. Like it becomes very dreamlike, right up until the point where he is standing face to face with the Pazuzu statue.
Yeah, you knew there was a battle.
Like exactly, you get the sense that there's this battle ahead, or like they're facing off with each other.
It's so intense because he's looking at that statue. Like leading up to that, he's like on his way up to that statue. He like almost gets completely run over by that horse carriage, and the frame rate is different, so it looks more intense. And then, like everything has the kind of like heat lines over it. Everything looks really intensely hot. Yeah, and he gets there, and he sees the statue, and then he looks over, and there's a man just kind of staring.
And the two dogs.
The dogs,
the black dog, the white dog. It's like
the two dogs are fighting.
The beginning of a battle between the two of them. I thought that was a brilliant shot.
I always reference the Exorcism of Emily Rose, where there's this lawyer who's trying to defend a priest who had murdered a girl during an exorcism. Yeah. And he goes, like, I knew from the moment I'd seen the demon that the game was on. Yeah. That the showdown was imminent. Yeah. And he was like, the lawyer replies, like, you're really God's gunslinger, aren't you? And that's the way I always think. Whenever I see that scene, God's gunslinger, or things like that, I always think of, you know, a Max von Sydow facing off against the statue. Yeah. Like, even if there's no supernatural element to it, it's just that iconic shot of the statue with the arm raised and the four wings. The four wings. Yeah. The phallus. The huge penis that was on that statue. Yeah, and I never even realized.
We thought it was just a snake, but then like looking at it last night, like being able to just pause
and see that shot. Yeah, there's a huge penis.
Oh yeah,
like takes the torso. It's gigantic.
And it's very cleverly hidden because there's a close-up shot and it dissolves from the statue to, I think it's San Francisco, right? Yeah. It's just so interesting that it's so cleverly.
We actually jump around location-wise quite a lot, and they don't really call it out because, like, the main story happens in Washington, and then Damien goes up to New York to see his mom, but they never have like title card New York. Like they tell you what that is. You know, you kind of only like pick it up through little bits. You know. Yeah.
But do you think when he was facing the demon there in that shot, it's like? We have a score to set because because of what happened was it in Africa?
Yeah, that prequel. Yeah, they even talk about that. Yeah,
it went horribly wrong. They even say it.
It went on for months. Yeah, and it almost killed him.
Yeah, it almost killed him. So now all of a sudden he's come to face him again, as if to say the battle's on again.
I love that. It's actual because there's a couple of scenes from now. Once Damien is interviewing Reagan and he ends up listening to her voice backwards and stuff like that. Or even when he's interviewing Reagan anyway, Pazuzu is calling out Father Merrin by name.
That's right.
But they haven't actually met in movie yet. Like, we haven't seen them meet. So it kind of implies that there is unfinished business that we've met before. Yeah, there's something already going on. Yeah. And I like that. Like there's backstory that we like never kind of really get to. Yeah. Which I like. It's just sprinkled in there.
Around.
There's like an implied backstory. I like that.
Yeah.
So we obviously moved to the Washington scene, and obviously Reagan's mother.
Yeah, we're introduced to Ellen Burstyn's character, Chris Mcneil. She's stirred by scratching as she's like studying her lines, and then on her way to go investigate noises in the attic, we're introduced kind of to Linda Blair as she's sleeping, so we don't really get to see her. Yeah. And then we get to see kind of a weird tension between Chris and her housekeepers and stuff like that, where they're kind of at odds on like certain things, like with the rat traps and stuff like that. And he insists that there is no rats. Yeah. He says like, but there's rats. Like I heard them.
The clean ones.
Exactly. And then we like move right on to the next day of Chris on set of her movie. I actually didn't catch what the name of the movie was that they were shooting, but it centers on the building
getting torn down.
And keeping the military off campus. Like it's a sit-in.
Actually, did you notice the author is in that? As I said to you, Blakely was in that just for a split second.
Yeah, with the little glasses.
Yeah. I knew that.
Realize.
I had to rewind that and I recognise that fella. Yeah.
I'm almost certain Friedkin, the director, is one of the doctors in one of the scenes as well.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah, with the big glasses.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I'm pretty certain it's him.
See cameos, man.
Yeah.
And then in the background of this scene, we kind of get like a pan over to Father Damien. Like we're
That's
not
right. He's
directly
in the crowd.
introduced to him yet. But then this is where we get our first instance of Tubular Bells, where Chris is walking home.
Of course,
Yes.
And
yeah.
she's walking past, and she sees
The iconic music.
Exactly, she sees those two nuns in all white.
Yeah.
And like the shot is kind of
Angular.
off kilter, and like it's weird to kind of see nuns in all white, and then like the cape and everything is like blowing everywhere. Like it's
I know,
so dramatic.
but as well as that, you see the kids. So there's sort of like there's religion, and then there's just the freedom of the children
Halloween.
yeah,
and
she kind of
Halloween
stops
enjoying
and lingers
themselves.
and looks at the kids for a
Yeah,
little bit.
just so innocent there, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's the nuns, and you're drawn to religion then, and you know.
Yeah.
You also have that reference in the following movie with being in the sanitarium. With the I think it's either a nun or it's a mental patient. I'm not 100% sure.
There's a nun being
covered.
followed in the third movie. She walks from one room to the other, and then the Gemini killer comes behind with the big
right
shears.
in with the big shears.
Like,
Do you
out of
remember
nowhere.
that?
No.
It's just that one shot
I
where
know.
the nurse walks straight through a door. I mean, we'll get to it, but it's absolutely horrifying. I remember seeing that one shot for the first time.
Nowhere.
Absolutely terrified me because we don't see what happened to that nurse, but we're told that she was completely beheaded.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so of course then we move on into
So Chris eventually gets home, and then we're officially introduced to Linda Blair's character of Reagan Mcneil, officially, who gives off major Stevie Nicks vibes. Do you think she looks kind of like
Yeah,
Stevie
she does
Nicks?
kind of, yeah.
Or like Carrie Fisher?
Yeah.
she's very much like the two of them.
And just so, can I just interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Do you know who was cast and just their parents decided no, they're not going to do it? And when you think about it, it wouldn't have worked because, okay, so...
I'm trying to think of like child actors at that time.
Okay, so let me see. If I was to say Halloween...
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
I don't know about that. But she was
Right.
also the only teenager in Halloween because all the other girls were like over 21.
Okay.
She
Great
was the
set
only
of
one in
lungs,
college.
but she couldn't... Reagan
She
McNeil
couldn't do
does
it.
not that make.
Okay. Now that film came out in 78, Halloween. So
5
if
years after this.
The Exorcist, came out in 73, when I'd be looking at her, I'd be thinking, ooh, she's, I'd
Bit
be thinking
old.
of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
The other person, and you're not going to believe this, if I was to say Willy Wonka, and if I was to say Denise Nickerson.
That chick who played Violet.
Yeah.
Oh, I can actually see that
Blueberry.
a little bit more. Yeah, I can. Violet, you're turning
her-
the
Blueberry.
yeah.
Can you imagine her as a blueberry on the bed?
Oh,
Your
but,
mother sucked
no,
cocks in
yeah,
hell.
Exactly.
Blueberry jelly everywhere.
Your mother sucks. What is it?
Blueberries in hell.
The unstoppable
Everlasting
gobstoppers.
gobstoppers.
Gobstopper in hell, yeah. I actually can kind of see that a little bit more. I think
Knee
Jamie Lee
slapper.
Curtis, she like even though she's a teenager in Halloween, she still looks quite like mature. I
Yeah.
feel like that one is suited. Like
Well, she
Linda
was only
Blair.
14 when she was asked.
But even still, I feel like that might have been a bit old because Reagan Mcneil, like in
She's
the
meant to
thing,
be like what?
she's
12?
11.
Yeah.
She
11.
turns 12 on that birthday
Yeah,
in the movie.
yeah.
But she like it kind of works better when she's like actually like a little girl.
Yeah,
Like not
yeah.
even a teenager.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I think it works pretty well.
Because the innocence is there.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
I think it's much more shocking
though.
considering how far it goes.
Yeah. But like think about like how different like the trajectory of like horror cinema in general might have been if she hadn't have done that. Like if Jamie Lee Curtis hadn't have done Halloween, which is like
Done that, yeah.
her role. Like that's like her iconic role.
Yeah.
If she had done this instead,
Yeah.
like how different it would all be.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But there's a reason for everything. Like, for instance, originally, Marlon Brando, Jack Nicholson, and, what's her name?
That sounds like a fun night.
Audrey Hepburn,
Yeah.
right, were asked to do it.
Wow.
Now, Audrey Hepburn wanted it filmed in Rome. Marlon Brando, they decided no because he was just too overpowering of a character to play Father Merrin. And Jack Nicholson, get this, to play Father Keras.
Oh.
Now, Stanley Kubrick was approached and asked
was,
Yeah, I heard that.
would he direct the movie, and he declined.
Yeah.
But later went on to do
The Shining.
The Shining with
Yeah. Jack Nicholson.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then eventually Warner Brothers took it on. So
That would have been
yeah.
amazing. Do you know, I can almost see Brando in the
I
mirroring
can,
role.
yeah.
Like,
Specifically because
maybe.
of The Godfather.
Yeah.
I
But they
can
would have
see
had
it.
to like because they aged Max von Sydow, who was already kind of
Oh,
an older
yeah.
man. They
Yeah.
aged him up for
Really
that as well to make him
aged
look
him.
really
Yeah,
frail.
yeah.
But like I don't know, I feel like I can't. I feel like Marlon Brando's too.
Yeah,
Big.
he's just too overpowering. As
Yeah.
you know, he would have just overpowered the movie. I think.
Plus, he's
And
one of those
Audrey
actors
Hepburn,
I can't look at
no.
it without being like, yeah, well, that's Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
that's
Audrey,
true.
I cannot see Audrey because I imagine.
I'm assuming that's obviously the mother.
River.
Yeah.
I
No,
just
she's
can't
too
see her.
delicate.
Yeah, she's too
It's
delicate.
like Ellen Burstyn in this movie, she's kind of a bitch, but like
Yeah.
I kind of like
Yeah.
her.
Oh, I liked her
Yeah.
the
She's
whole
kind
way
of a
through.
dick. And I was
Yeah.
saying to Nathan, like throughout this whole movie, something will go wrong and she'll just go, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, oh,
and
she's
just flip
brilliant.
out. Lots of indoor smoking.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh,
everywhere.
yeah. So as we move on now, Lee.
So we get Father Keras on his way up to go see his mother, and we see that it's kind of implied that he's already losing his faith a little bit because a former altar boy, a Catholic father, asks him for spare change on the train. He says no. We
Yeah.
actually
An
don't see
altar
that he
boy
says
father.
no. He just walks
away.
Like it just cuts away
Yeah.
from that scene.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of referenced again later. Reagan will use the same voice to
Yeah,
say like, I'm
yeah.
a Catholic boy later.
Yeah.
But then we see on his way up to his mother's apartment, it's very, very dark.
Yeah.
It's very dingy. It's very like depressing
Yeah.
looking. Like it looks
Yeah.
already sanitarium
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
you know.
Again,
filthy
just
almost,
before
and-
he entered into that apartment, you see the kids jumping around on the
Oh,
car.
I have that note as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're smashing the shit out of it, and that's
Yeah.
how I kind of was like, "Is this New York?"
Yeah.
No
But-
offense to New York, but you can see,
I was
New
thinking
York
that
listeners.
as well.
you can see,
Yeah.
yeah, there's kids jumping all over cars and spray painting walls and
Yeah,
all this kind
but
of stuff.
then
and
again,
kicking trash
they have to
cans.
put that in there just to give. There are kids out there that, even though they're up to no good, but they're enjoying themselves
Yeah.
against all this that's going on in the background.
Yeah.
You see that like his mother is like very, very stubborn.
Yeah.
She will not go into a home.
Yeah.
She she's very insistent. Like
She
this
has,
is my home.
is it Alzheimer's? Or
Yeah,
do-
and her leg
it's
is
And her
Alzheimer's.
leg, yeah.
And her
he
leg,
comes
of course,
to manage her
yeah.
leg.
Yeah.
And when he's leaving, he leaves a piece of money on the dresser and kind of like hides a little bit and then goes. But like the apartment when he leaves, there's just like a window like above her door, so it's like just this tiny little piece of light. It
Yeah.
looks very
Dingy,
very
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Dirty.
Very, very uncomfortable.
yeah.
You know, hoarding a lot.
Yeah, but this is her home. She's been there all her life.
Yeah.
Don't do this to me,
Religious.
Damien. Why you
Obviously,
do
of
this?
course,
And
she's a
sitting there just
religious
listening to the radio.
Yeah.
Italian.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I love that whole storyline makes me so like, oh, like
It's
poor
so
guy.
upsetting.
So upset. Like, what can he do?
Yeah.
You know? So we get back to the Mcneil's house, and Chris finds Reagan playing with, or no, she finds Reagan's Ouija board.
That's right.
In the basement, or whatever, like that, and kind of just casually like, do you even know how to use it? And she's like, yeah, I play with it all the time. Okay, daughter, let's call the spirits. You know.
Like, back then, like, can you imagine? Like, I remember, like, even asking my mom about Ouija boards. She was like, you are never
No
to go
way.
near them. You are
No
never to
way.
play
Yeah,
with
same.
them.
I always said like, don't
Ever.
fuck with Ouija
Don't
boards.
Yeah.
fuck with
Like
them.
ever.
Yeah.
I always was taught that as
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah. But, of course, she has a friend.
Captain Howdy, yeah. With her imaginary friend, and we kind of get our very first piece of supernatural thing happening here, where, I don't think Chris is really like looking at the board, but the planchette like,
It does move.
yeah, it
Yeah.
moves straight
Moves.
away, and she's like, "You really don't want me to play or whatever like that." And Reagan is kind of asking Captain Howdy questions like, "Is my mommy pretty?" and all this kind of shit like this, and
It doesn't move.
It doesn't
Yeah.
do anything. So we kind of like, did that happen? Like,
Yeah.
did that, whatever happen? Yeah, and then we get to know that it's going to be Reagan's birthday tomorrow, and we get this kind of weird side plot that like doesn't really go anywhere, but kind of comes up every once in a while of Reagan's father, where he's in Rome. Like,
Yeah,
again,
he's in Europe. Yeah. What
kinda-
was he doing? What?
I think
He's
director,
never actually
actor-
shows up in the movie.
No, he
at
doesn't.
all.
No, he never shows up, but
And
I think he's
that annoyed me.
I think he's with Chris in the like film industry.
Yeah.
I think kind
Yeah.
of thing, because
Yeah.
he's like traveling around. He's
Yeah.
not just living
But-
in Rome.
Yeah.
You know, the agony she went through, and he doesn't show up. He doesn't ring or anything like that.
Yeah,
You know, you
yeah.
can see it's draining her. It really is bringing her down, 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 and she's fighting for her child because that's her only flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And she has no one else to turn to, only this priest.
I actually do really
Yeah.
like that. I love the relationship between Reagan and Chris, because then it does like get all the sadder when
Yeah.
things start to go south. Because, like, it is really kind of single mother with her daughter, because the father is only mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, we don't ever even hear his voice, you know? And then there's that scene when it is Reagan's birthday. It shows Chris, like, in the room, and she's like, don't fucking give me that, like, he's, you know, like, I've given you the number, like, 14 goddamn times, and shit like that.
Yeah,
and
Reagan is listening to this.
Yeah, she's,
she
like,
can hear
off
this.
to the side. And then I think that's, like, the whole thing of possession, where it's, like, it can only really work when the host is, like,
really
broken down.
Exactly. So, like, this is kind of the start of where Reagan starts to get weak and open to things.
Yeah.
But that's what they like to do. They like to kick you when you're
when you're down.
Yeah.
Well, you've been through this before now.
Oh yeah, I've been possessed multiple
all the time.
times. We go on so many trips.
So then we cut to Father Merrin and Father Damien and Father.
He's the other guy. Is the other random priest that just shows up
and
every
Father
now and then.
Dyer. We cut to them in a bar, which like I guess like that's a thing.
It's a priest bar.
Yeah, like priests used to. Hey, is this a priest bar? Collar bar only.
Collar bar, I love it.
Well, see, because to me that's weird. Because like I was like kind of ish religious, but like I always thought like priests are like straight laced and priests don't drink and smoke.
No,
but then
not
you
back
see,
in the
like,
70s or 80s.
Oh
no,
it was
well,
I
see
went
that.
out with priests to
and then you
pubs.
see that, and they're in a pub.
I
and
don't
they're
mean
like,
that in a funny way.
and they're like smoking and drinking and stuff like that. And he's kind of confessing that he's losing his faith, and he's like, "No, I don't want a transfer. Like, I need out. Like, I need to be in New York. I need to be like closer to my mother."
Yeah.
And then after that, once it pans to it's Reagan's birthday day, and we pan to the outside of the thing where we see leaves going this way, and then we see an actual change in the wind.
Yeah.
So this is when we first start getting all this kind of stuff where so it's Reagan's birthday and her father still hasn't called, nothing. So she wakes, or Chris wakes up and is like, yeah, we're lying, blah, blah. Like she gets her script on the phone, and then she sees that Reagan is like next to her in the bed. She's like, what are you doing here? And Reagan's like, my bed was shaking, I couldn't sleep. And she kind of
pats it off.
Exactly. Doesn't really think anything of it.
And who wakes up to a weird photo like that of their daughter behind them? Did you see that picture? When she answers the phone,
is that what she has, like the pigtails?
No, her hair is and it's just, if that was me after a couple of drinks the next morning,
Like,
oh my God, would scare the shit out of me.
So we hear some more stirring, but more like kind of aggressive stirring up in the attic, and Chris goes up to investigate with a candelabra. She lights a candle and like brings it up and trips over every single thing that she sees. And then the candelabra just like explodes into flame. Another like small kind of supernatural hint. And then we get Carl, her
butler.
Kind of like scares the shit out of her. She's like, Jesus, Carl, don't fucking do that. Like, I love that.
I love Carl. He's a cool guy.
Oh yeah, I have like small notes about Carl after this. And then we get that scene of that very obviously gay priest carrying a bunch of flowers into the thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was, I know. And then he turns and sees the picture of Madonna, the Virgin Mary, with boobs
big
and
tits
a dick
and a giant penis
stuck on, like covered in like red paint and all this kind of stuff. And he kind of like, oh Jesus, he like freaks out. What have they done to you?
But JC, that's actually something that I was always very confused about. Was like, I know, like I always, I suppose when I was younger, I would have thought, oh, it was the demon that did that, and blah blah blah. But I know now that, like, obviously because you know, Burke goes missing and then he ends up, he's beheaded, isn't he?
His head is twisted
180 degrees.
180, or no, I think 360. Like, his head is completely twisted around.
And I always thought there was this cult that was sort of behind it. Oh, there is. Excellent.
Oh, is there?
They're kind of.
I never knew that.
Because there's like more books and there's like the other movies. Like the second movie, like whatever. But then the third movie is like The Exorcist too. Like it directly ties up to. And I kind of don't want to give too much away, but like characters that we thought were dead are still in the third movie. Ish.
Spoilers.
But they go on to explain, spoiler alert if you haven't seen The Exorcist 3, it's only been 35 years. It kind of goes in that is other things going on in the background. But like for the purposes of speaking about this movie, it's kind of just hearsay. Like, is it witchcraft? Is it, because this is kind of in the middle of like Satanic Panic, you know.
Of course, yeah,
so
because
they're
it was
kind of
still
like,
the
what's going
puritanical
on?
era of like, you know, the 60s and 70s.
Exactly, like this is like right after like Manson murders. This is only 4 years after Manson murders.
Oh, it's
4 or 5 years.
yeah.
Manson
Funny you
murders was-
should say that, because Eileen Zitz, Pazuzu's face, she was in Helter Skelter. She was one of the Manson gang.
Wow.
Wow,
Manson
everything has a
chicks.
connection.
Long black hair.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this is only like 5 years after the Manson murders. 69 was
Yeah,
the Manson
yeah.
murders.
So,
And this
yeah,
is, yeah, it's only like a little bit after.
God damn.
So like we're in the middle of like full Satanic Panic, and then this is where we get Reagan in the hospital for the first of many times, and they ask her, or no, she's on the bed, and we see a flash of Pazuzu's face.
Oh, that's
like, right
correct,
in
For
front
the
of her.
first time.
First time.
Exactly,
First
we
time.
see
Yeah.
the face of Pazuzu, and
Horrifying.
when she's
Yeah.
asked, what do you feel? How do you feel? She says, I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And that's when she starts getting a little bit
Yeah,
more like,
because
"You
she's at her
fucking
weak-
bastard." She gets
she's
more
weak
Yeah,
aggressive.
she starts cursing at
Yeah.
them then.
Exactly, this
And
is
it's
right
like,
when
my
she's
daughter
starting
doesn't
to
curse at any.
Oh my god.
Don't
Okay.
put your hand near my cunt.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say, I can't
What
wait
did
to
it
say
come
that.
better from me leaving you?
Because I go, Reagan is starting to act like a little bit of a dick. Also, Chris's outfit is gorgeous because she's wearing this like really long pointed collar with the little like red like wool vest with
Yeah.
the like long plaid skirt. I live.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, so she's got ADHD. We're gonna put her on Ritalin. That's why the bed was shaking. She's like, no, I was sitting on the bed. The bed was lifting up, and he's like, no. It's like when a 90-pound mother lifts up a 120-pound vehicle to lift it
Yeah.
off their child. It's the same principle, whatever, like that. But it's like, well, no. You know, like, I'm not going to sprinkle Ritalin all over Reagan and the bed is going to stop shaking. This chick is possessed.
That
And
was
that's-
also like something that I really, really enjoyed about that film is what they did to that room, that set. Like, I mean,
Made it
they
so cold that it burnt
I mean, yes, of course. I mean, there's the rumor of like people burning it down because they thought it was so unholy, and then obviously, you know, the amount of stuff that they did was like, I mean, sometimes.
They couldn't
the
couldn't
voice
find a
actor
cause for that.
of Pazuzu
Yeah.
was sometimes just there, and she would be on a speakerphone,
Yeah.
and she would be saying her lines as to the priests,
Yeah.
and they would react to it, and then they would have huge freezers
Yeah.
Yeah.
right in every door, behind every wall,
So you get
so
the
the room
breath.
would be freezing cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously the bed itself, like levitating, bouncing, everything was all done by hydraulics built into the wall behind the
Yeah,
poster of the bed.
men working
And they were
behind
just
them,
up and down,
Yeah.
shaking it and everything. I just think it's amazing. And then obviously like the whole room shaking because it was on
It's like one of those like rotating rooms, like
rotating
a soundstage.
rooms.
kind of-
Yeah, a soundstage,
they were
yeah,
on
yeah.
wheels and that. Yeah,
like
casters,
the,
like, yeah.
Same thing for like Nightmare, where they like
where the
flip
room was
upside down.
twisting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's where
you
we
know
get that
what?
line.
They used every improvisation that they could think of. You know, the things flying, for instance, that was all done on like they had this flat piece of plank of wood or like a conveyor belt,
Yeah.
and they were shooting the discs. You know
Yeah.
when the mother goes running into the room, you see
Yeah.
that
Everything's
was them
flying.
just doing that.
Yeah.
And then the room had to be brought down to minus 30 degrees. And when the lights, of course, went on, they only had a couple of minutes. So
And you
everyone
could
else
see the
was
breath
wrapped
and
up.
everything,
Yeah, they had to see
Poor
the
little
breath.
Linda Blair is
Yeah.
sitting there tonight, and you
In
can
a-
see that she's like clammy
Yeah.
as fuck, even when she's not
Yeah.
covered in makeup. Like
Yeah.
she's clammy and she's like bone white. Like
Yeah.
she's so pale.
She
Yeah.
went through so much when she did that movie.
Yeah.
So much.
But
And
almost
she won
certain
an
that's a
Oscar
thing.
for it, didn't she?
She won an Oscar for it. Yeah, I think she did. Yeah.
I'm almost certain that's a thing though, that like they kept, because they had to keep those like refrigerating fans on like
Yeah.
the entire time. That,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
they left them on so much that like they caught fire, and then they had to like rebuild the entire set like over again. Like that, I guess that kind of like ties into like everybody thinks that this movie is cursed. Like the I think it was Friedkin's plane, like some casting crew's plane was struck by lightning, or they found out that like one of the background doctors in the movie was like actually like a real murderer or whatever like that. I don't think that means the movie is cursed. I just
There
think
were
it's
9
kind of-
deaths.
It adds into like
Yeah,
the
it does.
mythos
Yeah.
of it. It
The
makes it so
fire,
much more
there
like,
was no
ooh.
explanation. There were 9 deaths. one of the cameramen, his wife had a baby and the baby died.
Yeah.
Wow.
Linda's grandfather died. The security guy who was supposed to be looking after the changing rooms, he came out, the cops came along, he came out. Now, he wasn't going for his gun, but they thought he was going for his gun, and they shot him. The guy, what's his name? He's Chris Mcneil, Ellen's
Ellen
friend.
Burstyn, yeah.
Her friend, Burke.
Yeah.
After, when he's finished in the movie, when he dies, not long after that, he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were loads of things went missing. They actually had Jesuit priests on the set most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, just in the background. And so an awful lot of weird things went on.
I love that though, because I always heard those things like as a kid, and I was like, oh my god, shit, this movie is.
Yeah, but they do say
cursed.
if you
Like, it
mess
added to
around
it.
with anything like that.
Yeah.
Father Keras, he was given, Jason Miller, he was given a medal. And I think it's the medal that is pulled off him at the end of it. Before the movie started, he was given a medal by one of the Jesuit priests and said, take this, keep it with you always, because when you mess around with things like this, you are on the borderline between good and evil. And the devil does not want you to know what he's really up about. You know, what he's up
I had
against.
thoughts about that. How do actors feel in movies? Because like at the end, he's like kind of offering himself up to the devil, like take me, and it's like. I suppose depending on like what your view of like the world or like religion and stuff is, it's like you are reading this as a line, but you're also really saying these things out loud, like to whatever,
to the universe.
You know, like just because there's cameras around doesn't mean that like you're not like invoking something. You know what I mean? But like I guess that's all like kind of personal view. But in the hospital we got that like perfect line where she's like my daughter doesn't swear, she doesn't like use profanity or anything like that, and it's like, oh no, she let me really have it when I was examining her, and she was like, well, what did she say specifically? And he's like, keep your fingers away from my goddamn cunt. Just the idea of this like 11-year-old like saying that to a doctor.
She was also I remember specifically about interviews with her, and she was saying it's like she was asked to do so many profanities, and she was constantly asking her mother and father when they were on set, is like, is it okay that I say these
Put down
things?
the crucifix, you can't say cunt. You know?
But of course this progresses worse.
Oh god, it gets so much worse. So we find out that Father Damien's mother has been moved to hospice, kind of like a very like stark cut. There's no like interlude between there, and then when we see the hospital that she's in, it's very cuckoo's nest. Like all the women in it look like ghosts. Like everybody is so like like they're all clawing onto him for help and stuff like that, which is like really kind of terrifying. Like that's another little like background terrifying thing that like doesn't even come back in the plot. You know, and we get the why you do this to me, Davey, you know, like that. She's like freaking out, and the uncle is being like really shitty and passive aggressive. He's like, what if you had been a psychiatrist? You could have been living in a penthouse instead of this shithole. And then she dies. And then we find Damien like in the gym, like just punching the bag, kicking ass for the Lord.
I mean, as you would. I mean, anytime you take out a lot of pressure, sometimes it's best to go for a run or a walk or kick the crap out of a punch.
But it's and also a thing from his point of view, and I could understand that he just felt so helpless. He just could not help his mother.
Of course,
and he felt like a failure on his mother's behalf.
There's one of those things where it's like it's not like he did anything wrong. There was just nothing else he could do. So there was no way for him to like absolve himself of any of the guilt. There was nothing that he could do to fix it, you know. And then she dies. Like,
of course.
Which is the worst. So we get back to the Mcneil house. A swinging 70s party's going down. Everybody's smoking indoors. Everybody's drinking brown juice. And then Burke is chatting absolute shit to Carol.
He is
like,
plastered.
Nazi fuck.
He
you know,
is
just
absolutely shit-faced.
Yeah.
And he just
and
throws
like,
himself at everyone.
As well. And then he like just calls him outrightly a Nazi, and Carl like grabs him.
I feel so sorry for poor old Carl. I like
his
him.
fucking glass on the floor. Makes a whole ass scene. Gets his ass thrown out of the party. He's like throwing himself all over Chris and stuff like this, and she's like, "Go to your car. It's nice." And just like pushes him out of the house.
Just get out of here.
And then we get to the part where they're all singing show tunes. That one priest is like, if heaven to me is an all-white nightclub where I'm headlining and everybody loves
He's
it.
a lovely camp priest. I love him.
I was going to say, yeah, that...
So
Yes,
camp.
Pink, yeah. How wonderful.
How wonderfully camp.
What a wonderfully camp experience. So they're singing show tunes, and then Reagan comes down and says that line of, like, you're all going to die up there. And then she pisses all over the carpet. I love it. And I can't not think of that scene in Scary Movie 2 where it ends up being that, like, the mom, like, grabs her head and, like, pushes it on the floor with the newspaper.
Starts wiping her head in it.
So then Ellen brings... Why do I keep calling her Ellen? Jesus.
Ellen, jeez.
So
get
Chris
your
brings her
facts right.
upstairs and is, like, washing her and all this kind of stuff. And then we get a scene where she sees her bed thrashing. She finally sees Reagan on the bed, and the bed is going ham.
She's like, mother, it burns.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's freaking out.
actually, you know, the part there where she's saying it burns, burns. Mother, please stop it. She is, in that scene, she is literally meaning what she's saying.
Oh, they're fucking
It's
her up.
burning, it's hurting me.
Because they're throwing her
Because
back
they
and forth on them
it's
wires.
Yeah,
the
there's
harness.
it was a harness, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was beginning to come loose. And as they were giving it,
Oh, she was getting burned
she
again.
was. It was really hurting her. And I think they did another take. I'm not sure, but they decided to use that one.
Because
Where
it
she's
looks,
really
it
in
does
agony.
look great because like she literally is being like
Yanked.
re-
She
pushed
is,
up,
yeah.
Yanked back.
Yeah.
She's just like thrashing, her neck is like
Yeah.
flying back and everything.
Yeah.
And then like during this we get that really creepy, which to me is the creepiest part. It's the part that like freaks me out the most about The Exorcist, is when Father Keras has that dream when he's like trying to run towards his mother.
Yes.
And she's coming up through the subway and she's kind of standing there and he's like running and running.
She
but he's
looks
not
like
getting...
she's in absolute agony.
Oh, she looks like a ghost. Like she
Yeah.
looks like a skeleton.
Yeah.
But I thought in that scene, the first thing that came to me was, as the demon points out, your mother is here with us in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
She's
she
coming
going
up
back?
out
She's
of
coming
hell
out
and
of
going
hell, and
back
then
down.
she's turning around and going back down to hell. That's what I thought when I seen that.
That's exactly what I thought, because the
it's like
demon's
a
face
weird-
shows up again.
The demon's face shows up, and so does the medal that Max von Sydow finds at the start of the movie.
Yeah.
And they haven't met yet. So
Yeah.
to me, it's kind of a dream / vision, because he's also seeing Pazuzu's face and the medal all flashed in at once.
Yeah.
Where like he would not have been, like he hasn't had contact with either of those two things
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
But yeah, the flashes where it's just Pazuzu's face just flashes up real quick always just freaked me out and kind of unnerved me.
That was something that, as a child, or not as a child, really, just a very young
200 years ago.
teenager. Can't get 1 hour session in without calling me old, you fucking asshole.
We don't know how many years have left.
But I do recall often, whenever we were watching it, that I would recall the times when that face would show up, and I would be already covering my eyes, waiting for it to show up and then disappear. And I would often miss it, and I'd be like, is it gone? And then it would show up, and I'd, oh no! And I'd seen it.
Yeah.
But it was so effective. It's something like that blink and you miss it, that terrifies you.
Yeah.
It does work out perfectly because they never show, like there's never a scene where it's like, I am, like, it's Pazuzu! You know,
Yeah,
like, they
yeah.
never show, like,
Yeah.
the body. It's always
Yeah,
just
just
the
the
face.
face.
Yeah.
Shot, like, lit from underneath. That,
Yeah.
like, flash. And
Yeah.
that's all we ever get.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. It's super, super effective.
It's very effective. Those dream sequences are often the best, in my opinion.
So then we get to the doctors again, and they try and pass it off as, like, a lesion, which, interesting word use, because it's the second Exorcist book. Yeah, they try and pass it off as like a lesion on Reagan's brain, and we get like the medical gore scene where they like they're like, Reagan's gonna be a little bit cold, and they like put the rubbing alcohol on her neck, and then they like do the little needle, like that like thick needle on her neck, and it just kind of like
Spurts out blood.
spurts out that little piece of blood, and then she goes through all those tests. There's that one test where she's like strapped, and then there's like that machine that's just like
Yeah, just really loud.
it's like it's torture. It's like it's proper torture, and she's like kind of writhing and like freaking out. Like,
Yeah.
that part
I always
gets me.
found that interesting was because at the beginning, the mother, she's so influential that she knows she has all that power, and she keeps, I think even you said it, she keeps throwing money at the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's trying to go through like everything from medical to diagnose diseases to mental issues, and then she
hypnotherapy and stuff.
arrives with therapy, and then she finally arrives with an exorcism.
Yeah, but you
Because-
can't blame her, really.
Oh no, that's what I mean. Is like she thought throwing money at the problem would fix
Would
it.
fix
Like,
it,
that's what
yeah.
she was
And
told
then-
by
Yeah.
everybody was
Yeah.
like, find the best hospital,
Find-
just
yeah.
find and stick her in there.
And
Yeah,
then
because
it wasn't
as,
working.
as you find out later in the film, the priests, they perform they do perform exorcisms, but they put it in a closet, they hide it away.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like
kind of the
as
Catholic
a
Church,
last
just dirty
resort.
little secret.
Yeah,
To name a few.
A lot of dirty little
Don't
secrets.
worry, I love Jesus. So yeah, they're kind of going on as if it's something small, like it's ADHD, it's a small lesion in the brain, and we get like the like minor surgery. But then we get like kind of one of the like more famous scenes in the movie where they get back, and this is where everything is flying around Reagan's room, where the doctors also first see like the bed is shaking, she's thrashing, it's burning. It's where we first get her eyes rolled back completely white.
Yeah.
And like the big bulge in her throat, and we get the like like sound that first comes out.
That to me is the scene when the spirit or
was-
Pazuzu has
Yeah, that's when it
entered her.
body.
That's when
Yeah.
it first got her. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
entered through the mouth. I love that.
Yeah.
those were her favourite. Actually, those were her favourite contact lenses.
The white ones.
The white ones, because she had to have her the eyes numbed,
Yeah,
because
wow.
she found the contact lenses very hard to get it in, but the white ones she just loved. Now granted, she couldn't see a bloody thing, but they just popped them in. Actually, she popped them in herself
Yeah.
and just
Jesus.
they used
went
to make
on
those
with it.
contact lenses out of like really, really thin glass, like real thin. Like the same thing on Evil Dead. Like you can only wear those lenses for like a couple of minutes, like 20 minutes at a time. You know, but like they look great. That's like every single one of my photos that I ever put up anywhere, my eyes are rolled back completely white, and that's directly because of The Exorcist. I just think it looks really like striking. I think it looks super cool. This is where we get her demanding, "Fuck me, fuck me,"
With a crucifix.
with the crucifix.
Just masturbating with a crucifix.
Don't
I mean,
we all? Haven't we all
like-
been
And
there?
you know how that was done?
we just wouldn't do it any other way.
Sponge.
It was
between her
it
legs.
was a box and just a sponge, some dye, and then they got her to do the crucifix. The camera was literally over her.
Yeah, because
And a
you could
strong
see
right
the
arm.
crucifix going
And
right
right
in
down.
and then right back
Yeah.
up again. Yeah.
But I think what's her name? Eileen. Eileen did some of that. She came in and did some of that, because you must remember that not all of the actions Linda could do, because
say,
they
you kind
needed
of also
a
be like,
strong.
So 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Blair, we want you to masturbate with this crucifix here.
Yeah,
You see.
but as well as that, for the wax across the face,
Of course, yeah, the smash.
Yeah.
Shit out of Chris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She sends her flying across the room.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love that. This is like where we really start to see, because this is where she now has like the welt on her face. Like
Yeah.
she's got the black eye.
Yeah.
And then we got like our 6th hospital scene, kind of not super important, kind of still run-of-the-mill hospital stuff. But then on her way home, she sees all the police lights and all the people gathered outside her house, which she kind of doesn't pay attention to at all. She goes back into the house, and this scene is really creepy as well. She gets into the kitchen, she's by herself, and then all the lights go out.
Yeah.
And we get like a little flash of Pazuzu behind
Pazuzu,
her.
yeah.
And then it comes back up, and she goes upstairs to find Reagan's window like completely open, like
Yeah.
wide open. And what is her name? I think it's Kitty or Sharon.
Oh, she won't
Sharon,
go in.
Sharon, yeah,
Sharon is her.
her assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She left like Reagan by herself with Burke, but like we don't see that happen, obviously. And Chris kind of has like a little bit of a freak out about it, like why would you leave her alone like by herself and stuff. And then another one of the friends from the party shows up and is like, "So I assume you heard." And then she's like, "Heard what?" It's like, "You haven't heard. Burke's dead." So then like we find out afterwards that like all the hullabaloo outside, which is the actual word I used, was all because of Burke.
Wow.
And then that's right where we get the spider walk scene. But it really does come out of nowhere, because that scene is more like a somber, sad kind of like, oh shit moment.
Yeah. I really didn't think that part where she's coming down the stairs, I thought it just doesn't fit in with her grievance for some reason. You know, it just does not fit in.
Yeah. It's also kind of like, it feels a bit out of place.
Out of place, exactly.
It's kind of bloody for no reason as well. It kind of doesn't make sense why blood is there. Because it's not a bloody movie.
Yeah, but I would have thought it would have been better to have her do that at the party. I think, was that in the original?
If that was instead of the piss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she had to come down like that, or I think in the original where she comes down the stairs and her tongue is like a forked tongue and it's going in and out, and she chases somebody
they had
across.
That instead of the blood in the mouth.
Yeah, I would have thought that would have been better in another. Anyway.
So then Reagan is questioned on what's happening by a psychiatrist, and he asks, is there someone inside you? She says, sometimes. I love that. Like, I love that. Then,
and notice her hand is up like this. It's like, it's just sitting there.
She's just sitting there.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the same with the god, or the devil at the beginning of the movie in Iraq. He has his hand up like that. Yeah, so there's sort of a similar, and it's there,
So like after he's asking her all these questions and stuff like that, a frame like flies off the mantle, and that makes everybody kind of like, oh shit. They look back and she's got no eyebrows, so it's like now she's.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yeah, they broke out her eyebrows, so she's got like a
heavy brow,
ridge. Like this is where it's like that's Pazuzu. Like this is not her anymore. She like growls really weird. She kind of does that like, oh, and then she just grabs the shit out of that psychiatrist genitalia, and grabs the shit out of him, and then they kind of just. Cut away. They just cut away from
the way he falls, that was done so well. They wanted to.
That was a camera attached.
That was a camera. It was like he was in a chair.
Yeah.
And he went down, and the camera was right in front of him. So as he was going down, the camera was coming right down in front of him. So
it's the same thing in Psycho,
where he's falling down the stairs.
Yeah. Get that weird, like. Speaking of police, Lieutenant Kinderman, we're introduced to him. He meets Father Keras on the track, which is like that's the first scene that I actually ever saw when I watched Exorcist for the first time. I hopped in here when I was like 8 or something, and he says he looks like John Garfield, which I disagree with. And we're told that like Burke's head, like they're having kind of discussions about like what's going on, like and that's when we find out that Burke's head was turned completely like 360 all the way around. And that they kind of think like there's maybe like 1 in 1,000 chance that could happen. So he kind of starts to think like he was killed before he was like thrown out. And then they kind of go on about like, do you think it's witchcraft? Do you think it's a cult? Do you think there's like other like things kind of going on here? Linking the Madonna with the tits and the dick to Burke's death. Like, is it all kind of linked up together? And then he offers him a ticket to go see Othello with Debbie Reynolds and Groucho Marx. And he's like, I've already seen it. And then he's like, oh yeah, well you look like Sal blah blah blah. He's like, you don't look like that actor. You look like him.
Yeah.
And so then we get another scene, yet another scene of doctors, suggesting that they like put her away. They, like that Chris puts Reagan away, and she's like, I'm not putting her away. Like she's my daughter. Blah blah blah. And then the next thing is like, have you ever heard of an exorcism? Like that's just the next
just so slightly like put in there, slyly.
I love that though. It's just like, have you heard of possession? You know. And then after this, Lieutenant Kinderman approaches the house, and he gets to the stairs where Burke died at the back of the house.
Yeah.
And he finds the body off the Pazuzu statue, but they kind of don't like make that a big like, oh my god, it's the missing piece of the statue. It's kind of just like
it's just there.
Small, it's like a small little detail.
But how did it get there?
Wind, I guess.
Or a cult.
Demon magic.
Yeah.
Pazuzu!
But and then at the same time, these things are happening at the same time. Chris finds a crucifix in Reagan's room and kind of freaks out at the staff.
That's right, yeah.
Did you put this in Reagan's room? And everybody's like, no, I didn't. And then she asks everybody, and she gets the same answer from everybody.
Yeah, but if you look closely at that movie, when the doorbell rings, she puts the crucifix on the little table, right?
Yeah.
Where I think the phone is. And she goes to the door, and it's the detective. And as he comes in, and she chats to him, she gives him a cup of tea. He's admiring Reagan's little turtle, her little clay models. He leaves, and as Chris is turning around and she's walking towards the table, the crucifix is gone.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, how did they disappear from there? You know, what's the story there? Did Reagan get out of the bed, come back down, and take it, or what?
I loved it though, because there's a lot that kind of is implied that happens with Reagan that we just never see.
Yeah.
It's like, it is, well, I suppose not heavily implied, but it is kind of told to us that, like, Burke was killed. That's like on my next thing, that like the lieutenant is kind of suggesting, like, maybe he was killed before he was thrown out, because there's no way, like, the injuries don't match up with the death, all this kind of stuff. And you kind of get the suggestion that Reagan had killed him before.
Yeah.
And, like, they're kind of suggesting that, like, Reagan gets up and moves around and stuff like this, but we never see that.
We never
like,
see that, no.
It's all just implied. But then there's, like, that cute little moment where he's like, could I have an autograph for my daughter? And she's like, yeah, what's the name? And he's like, I'm lying, it's for me. Yeah, I love that. He's like, that last movie you're in, I saw it like 6 times. And she's like, okay, bye. Do you want another cup of coffee, bro? So this is like the scene, the crucifix scene. After he leaves, Chris is kind of putting on like a little bit of a front of like, yeah. And then he leaves and she closes the door and she kind of like, it's like breaking down. And then we hear this like huge like, from upstairs. And you go upstairs and
the servants are scared outside.
The servants are scared. Everything in the room is just being thrown around, and she's masturbating with the crucifix, and tells her mom to lick
go
me,
down her,
lick me,
yeah.
And then this is the first time we get a 180-degree rotation, not a full 360, because she's sitting here and rotates just to the back, and that's where we get the line. Do you know what she did?
Your cunting daughter!
I just wanted to get in there. That was done so well. And with such an easy prop in the background, right up to the mic.
Yeah.
It was done with, of course it was a dummy, and they did a very good job. Now, they made a mistake on the first take on it, because as you know, the room was freezing cold. Yeah. So as the dummy was turning around, there was no breath coming out. So one of the guys noticed that, and they said, "Oh, yeah, right, let's do it again." So this time they did it with the breath, but they had to get the squid, as if the neck is turning around, and you've got to hear that like crack. Yeah. So one of the guys took out just an ordinary wallet out of his pocket and went right up to the mic and just turned the leather wallet. Yeah. And that's how they did it. It was all simple things, picking up simple things, and just
it just works so perfectly though.
Just simple things.
Because they don't cut away from that puppet at all, and it's in the middle of the day, and like that looks like Linda Blair. Yeah. Like I wouldn't be like, oh.
But you know what they also did? They also did, before that scene was done, they put the dummy in a car in New York and drove around New York, right? Wow. In the front, right? And her head was nodding around like this, and the eyes were going, and people were looking in, because obviously they'd stop in traffic. Yeah. And then people would be looking in at this child sitting in the front seat, and then all of a sudden the head would go right around, and that would freak the shit out of everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never noticed until last night that when she says that about your cunting daughter, that's Burke's voice.
Yes, it is. She's channeling him.
Oh, right.
It's the guy who died's voice. So that kind of implies of the like, see, she fucking killed me.
Yeah.
So like, it is like way more heavily implied that Reagan did kill him and then toss him out of the room. So then we get this scene where Chris is out for a walk. I love her outfit in this as well, though. She's got like a headscarf. Oh, the
headscarf and the glasses.
Black leather gloves and a huge thing, yeah. But then she's like, Father Damien comes up to her and he's like, and she's like, please just go away. And he's like, oh no, I'm Father Damien. She's like, oh, have you got a cigarette, Father? And then she takes her gloved hand off the railing and then puts it up to her mouth. She touches her mouth with a leather glove that's been like touching the public and shit. And then they're kind of going through, they're having like a little small conversation. She's like, if somebody was to confess murder to you as a priest, like, would you have to turn them in? And he's like, well, no, I wouldn't, but I would strongly suggest that they turn themselves in.
Yeah.
And then she jumps straight into, so how do you go about getting an exorcism? And he's like, we don't do that here. Like, we haven't done that. He's like, if you need an exorcism,
that was a
need a time
movie
machine.
blunder there, actually, if you'll notice. When she asks that, she has the cigarette in her hand. And you can clearly see her putting it out.
Yeah, they make a whole thing of her
and
stopping.
Then all of a sudden,
and him turning around to see her, like, stub it out and everything.
And then all of a sudden, in the next clip, she has a cigarette back in her hand. Yeah.
I love little things like that.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, we don't do that anymore. You need a time machine if you want to, an exorcism, like they were outlawed in like the 1600s. And she's like, okay, well, somebody very close to me is possessed. And then they move on. They get back to the house. She brings him, like she rushes him back to the house. And this is where we get Linda Blair in full, like, Exorcist, like green contacts, cuts on the face, like all this.
We just get him looking at her and going, fuck this.
Like, she's fully tied to the bed at this point. This is like the iconic images like of what we think Reagan looks like. She's spelling that she's not Reagan, that she's the devil. And she's asking to untie the straps and like begging to untie the straps, and Damien is like, well, if you're the devil, why don't you like untie them yourself? And he says that'd be much too vulgar a display of power.
I always love this smart humor that the devil or Pazuzu shows.
But the devil is so like, eat my ass.
Yeah.
You know,
he's like, he's teasing, Pazuzu is teasing out, like, that he can do these things.
I could, but I won't.
I could, but I won't.
Yeah.
And I
Not for
always
you.
love that. And it's like, I mean, there's several times where, I don't know, stuff like, I don't know, the drawer opens up, he goes, did you do that? And she just goes,
I love that.
And then she goes, why don't you do it again? And he goes, no. Another time. And he goes, another time. And, like, the devil gets kind of annoyed. And then there's several times where Pazuzu is, like, contesting what Father or Damien is saying. Yeah,
like Father Damien is speaking to her in Latin, and then she starts going to French and starts just saying bonjour. But then I wrote, where is it? She's like, your mother's in here with us, Keras. Would you like to take a message? I'll be sure she gets it. Which is like, that's so like, fuck you, like your mom totally just died. And then she throws up pea soup right into his face.
Oh,
right there.
Yeah.
I love
and
that.
that wasn't intentionally for his face. That was
it's like right in his fucking eye and
but
everything. Like they throw it at him.
Originally what it was the mask, the piece was made, a tube was to go into Dietz's mouth, not into Linda Blair's. So Dietz is lying on the bed, and she's got the tube in her mouth, and under the face, the actual
prosthetic.
Yeah. And the guy is behind the bed with the bucket of pea soup. Now it's warm at the time because it has to get that effect of steam as well coming out. So
and it's like bright green.
And so he lets it go, and instead of hitting Father Keras in the stomach, it hits him in the face.
Like right.
So
like
what
right in
you
the center.
see is the actual expression.
The reaction.
He wanted to kill the shit out of that guy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the director William turned around and said, "No, let's keep that because that is the good.
It works.
It was unexpected.
Yeah.
And that's what Friedkin was known for: is the getting the best out of his actors. Mm-hmm. He would go around with shotguns all around the place, and Max von Sydow came in one day and said, so where are the guns? Well, there's a 45 over there, and there's a shotgun over there, and there's this over here.
Wow.
And that's how he would get the best from his actors. He would literally come up, as a matter of fact, just before, while Keras is listening to the tapes of the demon talking in this blah, 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 the phone rings. And when I heard that today...
It's so intense.
It's so intense. And you know why? Because just as the phone is ringing, boom, he went right up behind Keras. Boom, shot that gun. And Keras said, you ever fucking do that again? I know my job, I'm an actor. You don't need... What about if it had turned a little bit to the right? Well, we've always got Jack Nicholson waiting on the sideline.
Wow.
You know? So yeah,
Like,
things
but it
like that.
did, though.
It did the job though, and he was a good director though.
Yeah.
He went on to do the did he, or just before this he had something to do with the French Connection.
He also did. Hold on, wait. I actually want to look that up real quick.
Yeah. And you know this movie only had a budget of 12 million. It grossed 232 million in the US alone. And
It's just it's a movie that's really quite a zeitgeist, changer.
Yeah.
It's ahead of its time, and it's definitely something that will push down. But of course, the next scene with obviously Reagan in the bed.
We get the line.
Get that iconic line.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
Oh, yes, I thought that was good.
Father Keras is just like, you'd like that? You'd like an exorcism?
Yeah.
And she
It would bring us
says,
closer together.
It would
You and
bring us
Reagan, no,
closer
me and
together.
you. I love it.
Yeah.
And then she starts like, the devil literally just starts
Intently.
like chatting shit.
That's so sassy.
I had
So
written
sassy.
here, Pazuzu is his sassy little wind demon. And then he just goes, La plume de mes tantes. Like, I
Yeah.
love that. It's literally just chatting shit. Like, there's nothing, like, even evil about it. It's just, fuck you.
And then, of course, like, once he starts to get more in tune with who this is, he starts testing it more.
Yeah.
So Pazuzu gets a little bit irritated by this. And then, of course, he starts throwing the holy water at him. And obviously Reagan reacts to it very violently so.
Yeah.
And Keras leaves and says, was Reagan aware that I was coming in? Or that I was a priest or blah, blah, blah.
Or that my mother had just died.
That my mother had just died because he did. And she goes, no, she doesn't even know who you are. And she goes, she had a reaction to the holy water, but it's not holy water. It's
Wasn't
just
blessed.
normal tap
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
So he said to her, like, this is not grounds for, an invited exorcism. To be able to invoke the rights of exorcism. And it's just it's very, very. I love that it's just full smart horror.
Yeah.
And
But
whereas
there's
like
lots of little nuanced things that you kind of don't even notice unless you're, like, really looking for them.
Yeah.
Like, really trying to pick them out.
yeah, and I like this idea that it was always Pazuzu was just biding his time until Father Merrin got closer and closer, because that's why I always thought it was like that's why Pazuzu reacted to the holy water so like that, and then started questioning about Damien's mother and everything, is because he wanted to keep roping him in, pushing him out and bringing Merrin back.
Yeah.
As like that's what the Pazuzu wanted from the very beginning.
That's what I was going to say. Literally from this kind of gibberish that Reagan is talking, once Keras like listens to that back, that's when we get Father Merrin being called out by name by Pazuzu. And again, like they haven't been in a scene together. Like Reagan hasn't met Merrin yet.
Yeah,
But like
Merrin
again, I find
Reagan
that
doesn't
really...
know Merrin that Merrin exists at this
Exactly.
point.
But then once Merrin starts to get up to the house, Reagan, like once he gets out of the cab,
Yeah,
Reagan,
you've that
it chops
iconic
up to Reagan,
shot with the
where Reagan
eyes.
is like
And
she knows
Yeah.
he's coming into
Yeah.
the house.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
she
you
knows
can
that time.
hear that horrible mirror.
I love that because it's like this weird, like half masculine, half feminine voice, like at the same time.
That's what Mercedes had. She's half
really
masculine,
creepy.
half feminine voice.
It's just nuts. And when, of course, when they finally do get to, The Exorcist, title titular character actually arrives, all hell, at least in my opinion, all hell finally does break loose. Like, this is the showdown that we've been waiting since that opening scene. Since that, God's gunslinger moment, that he has walked in, he knows what he's dealing with, and as soon as he looked at Merrin's just like, okay, you need to leave the room, I need to, deal with this.
But he stupidly goes in by himself. He goes back in by himself. And like just really quick, right before there, we get that little small scene of, was it Sharon? Brings Damien in without Chris knowing, and we get that little help me.
Yeah,
written across.
Yeah,
of course.
that's
The
right.
upside
Yeah.
down cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
That's
see that,
Reagan
like, her
calling
ribs
out
are
for help.
kind of exposed.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So we see that, like, she's been fully taken over. This is, like, final
Yeah.
stage full possession.
Yeah.
Like, it's all time, all the time.
It's it's a fantastic, like, you know, like it's the crescendo moment. It's the ultimatum. It's
on.
It's on.
Yeah.
And of course you have that iconic, you know, Reagan floating above the bed. You know, the power of Christ compels you.
I thought
we
that
got
was
a little
so
bit
strong.
before there. We got a little bit before there. This is where Keras goes to. There's like a small scene. Keras goes to meet his Monsignor the next day to ask permission to perform the exorcism.
Yes.
And that's when they get Father Merrin in.
That's correct.
Where they go, and Father Merrin is like, they say he's in Woodstock now. He's up in New York.
He's in Woodstock.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought he was
course.
at a concert
So they take
when
him.
you said that.
They take it. No, he's up in New York. Like same.
Yeah, but Woodstock,
Archdiocese,
you know,
I guess.
Woodstock.
Haven't heard of it. So then that's like right where we get the shot, capital T, capital S shot of Father Merrin getting out of the car. No tubular bells. I don't know why I always
tubular
associate
bells. Yeah,
that
of
scene
Yes,
with
that's
tubular
right.
bells
Yeah,
happening.
it only
It's-
comes when she's walking down the street, and
It's
that.
actually quite
Yeah.
a relaxed theme.
They
Awesome.
play like half of it
Yeah.
right before the credits, and then they play. I won't even try and pronounce his name. That Polish composer did stuff for The Shining and lots of stuff for David Lynch, but it's all that kind of that like really high strung violin string kind of thing. That's the kind of big theme that we get at the end.
Yeah.
And then we get a little bit of tubular bells at the end. But anyway, so he's offered some brandy and he says my will is weak. So that's kind of like a little thing of like, okay, this could go wrong. Like we're given little crumbs of like maybe he's not.
He's
He's
down.
not
Okay.
going to make it.
Exactly. So then we enter Reagan's room, and she sounds like me on any given day. She is full. Oh God, I'm gonna curse. So she's like, okay, you read that.
Sure. You know, it's just, you know.
Stick your cock up her ass, you worthless cocksucker. Yeah.
She then spits in his face. Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Me too.
The titular exorcist then begins the exorcism. I mean, of course, the bed levitates, and like I said, obviously, I mean, like the special effects in this movie were, you know, not subpar. They were really there to submerge you in it, you know, and yeah, it's just, I think the next line you're probably better off reading.
Oh, I can say this. I have gay friends. She tells Father Damien to shove it up his ass, you faggot. I love that. The idea that the devil is like in this little girl and he's like, you faggot, fuck you. And now this time, this is when we get the full 360 degrees. The head goes the whole way around.
Yeah.
And this is when the whole house starts like
To
shaking.
shake.
Everything is shaking. And she levitates. This is where we finally get the like, everything goes
The
quiet.
whole
The eyes roll back
very
white.
Yeah.
silent.
And she just, but it's so weird. She looks so distorted because she looks like bloated and like cut and swollen and clammy and wet. And
She
there's
looks
a
like she
part-
drowned.
That's exactly what it looks
Yeah.
like. And there's a part where Father Keras is like kind of on top of her, like holding her head or whatever like that, and she's just like spewing out vomit. It's just coming
and
out.
it's very like, it's not like splurting. I always found that just so disgusting.
Looks
the
like
way
she's dying.
It was just like, it was like lava. It was just
Yeah.
coming out of
Yeah,
her.
like she wasn't
Yeah.
throwing up. It was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, it was just
I
like a
love that.
reaction to something, and it was just, oh yeah.
But like when I see something like that in a movie, I'm like, oh my God, this person is dying. Like this person
Yeah.
is sick. Like they should be choking, you know.
Yeah.
And then we get the power of Christ compels you.
The
They throw all the
iconic
holy
moment.
water all over,
And she just skin starts splitting open.
Yeah, I found that very powerful. The two
Yeah.
of them shouting that the power of Christ compels you.
And then they get more tired
Yeah.
as Reagan's body starts very slowly going
Yeah.
back down to the bed.
I wrote, she looks stunning, no joke. Because she's like outspread. Jesus really ruined that pose for people.
God, get down off that crucifix. Someone needs
for
the
real.
wood.
She's got like full white eyes, cute little blue dress. I thought she looked stunned.
That's a Saturday night for you.
If I got the right wig. So Keras is like walloped over the head, and the whole house shakes again.
Yeah.
And then we get that shot. I think it's kind of my favorite shot from the movie. It's her from the back.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
and the
She's
demon.
And the
reaching
demon's
and
right in front of her.
clawing and just
Love that
backlit.
shot.
Yeah,
It's iconic.
that's a great shot as
That's the only other time where we would see a bodily form
For
of Pazuzu
Pazuzu.
appearing.
Yeah.
Because they both realize from that moment onwards that they've lost the battle for that exorcism there.
Yeah, they have
And
to kind
then
of call
they
it
have
for a
to
sec.
call it. They're done.
Yeah.
And they literally they sit at the end of the stairs.
They sit at the end of the stairs, and we got
Father Merrin is
he goes
like,
into the bathroom. He's
I
like
need
having
to-
his pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then Father Keras, a dope, goes into the room by himself, and that's where you start getting the he starts speaking to Damien in his mother's voice, and all this kind
Exactly.
of stuff. But like it's
torturing
in
him.
his mother's voice, so there's no doubt in his
Yeah.
mind that it is her.
well. Yeah. I
Um,
think at that moment he decides he is going to do anything to help this girl. I think
Yeah.
there's something that hits him. It just hits him there, and he's made a decision. Whatever happens, I'm going to save this girl.
yeah, like
Yeah.
he's ready to die.
He
Like,
is ready.
about to
You
throw
can see
down.
it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Keras kind of, obviously, spoiler alert, Father Merrin is discovered murdered by
Yeah.
the bed.
Yeah.
And Reagan has broken her restraints.
Yeah.
And she's just sitting there,
Oh, I love that.
blankly
Sitting there
staring at
With
him.
the kind of like the little.
Yeah, the little girlie.
has the, like-
yeah.
I
No, but she
love
only
that.
does that after Keras sees what's happened.
Yeah, it's after
Because
she's like,
Reagan is just, the Pazuzu is just sitting there staring at Merrin.
Yeah.
love
The
that
whole
shot.
time until Keras reacts to it, and then she starts giggling like a
Giggling,
little
yeah.
schoolgirl.
And that's when
It's
he.
so good,
And
but
that's
it's the
when he
devil
really
doing it.
goes
Like
for
it's
it.
so
Yeah.
fully
Yeah.
known.
And
Like,
that's
it's
when
And
he's
that's
so,
when
like,
the whole house starts beginning to shake. He's telling her, like, leave her now.
Yeah,
Says,
come
"Take
into
me,
me,
lose
come
me,
into
take
me,
me."
take me, take me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets possessed. We see his eyes flash green, but then he kills himself.
Yeah.
He jumps out the window. He's not.
He has the
pushed.
willpower
Yeah.
to force.
Or he jumps through the window.
Yeah.
Full Texas Chainsaw
But
out the window.
I don't know if you noticed this. So he's fighting Reagan, the Pazuzu at the time, and come into me, and you can
She
hear
grasps at the necklace.
she's trying to get
Yeah.
out, and she grasps at the necklace. It comes off, and that's when it goes
Yeah.
into Father Keras. But you can see. He's the demon, and he's himself all of a sudden, and
He's
he's
fighting it.
trying to.
Oh, yeah, he's
and
about to
then,
go grab her.
But you know what makes him jump through? You know what makes him jump through the window? He just looks up, and for one split second, he sees his mother. Did you see that? Oh yeah, you have to. I
love that.
I think I seen, and I had to wind it back, and
Like
I
just
said,
a
yes,
flash.
he's demon. He's himself. Then he's demon. Then he's himself again. And at that one split second, he sees his mother up at the window, and he just says, "Fuck this, I'm out." Go.
And then it's so like, oh shit, because it's not anticlimactic, but it kind of is just like, oh,
It's
yeah,
done.
yeah,
They're
it's
done.
done.
with.
And
It's
do
over
you
with.
know
Yeah.
it took just 2 takes
Yeah.
for the stuntman for those 96 steps,
I'm glad it's my leg.
and they were all well padded with as much leather or whatever they could get but Father Keras, he asked him in the end, because he was not going to do that scene, and he asked him, "How did you do it?" And he said it was just zen. He had to get in, he had to jump out and flop down those stairs the best way
And
he
that's
could.
actually
But-
Sorry. go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Of course, he wasn't the only one that got paid for it. Because the scene was at night time, right? Every rooftop around there that could be in view of that stunt
Yeah.
was packed with all these kids and other people from Georgetown. Some guy was charging $5 a head. And there were over 500 people on all those rooftops from around.
I
So
love
there
that
was
there's
money
like
to be
some
made
like
there.
weird trickery with like, because like that house is obviously like there in Washington. Like,
Yeah,
you
That
can, like,
stairs
walk
it
is
up to
not
it.
there.
But that stairs is
No,
actually not
it's
there.
not. No,
It's like
not.
a street over.
Yeah,
Like it's by
that's
there,
right.
but it's not like right behind.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. No.
It's very interesting. I always know that. And then that actual rolling scene, the falling down the
Yeah.
stairs, that scene goes on forever.
Yeah.
Or at least as that. But those shots of like just the tumbling, the falling,
falling,
cracking
yeah,
of
yeah,
bones,
yeah.
the splitting of his head, everything. it just that that torturous thing just goes on for I think about a minute.
And he doesn't actually die straight away.
You know, he's still alive.
No, he's still alive.
And then he goes, if you want
and
to...
Father Dyer's holding his hand. He's like, do you want to make a confession?
Yeah.
Because up until that point, he still hasn't, like, gotten his faith back. He, like, he's kind of denounced the church in a way. Because I think, like, he takes off the uniform completely and only puts it back on when he goes to perform the actual exorcism. That's why, like, Chris didn't recognize him because he wasn't dressed as a priest. So yeah, he's like trying to say like final rites, all this kind of stuff like that, and then I think he kind of just dies. Just dies.
But Father Dyer, you know, he got slapped across the face because he did that take 15 times, and Friedkin came over to him and said, "Listen, it's just not good enough." And he said to Dyer, he said, "Do you trust me?" And he said, "Yes, of course I trust you." And with that whack straight across the face, and he secretly, to the cameraman behind him, just nodded because he knew, you know, when he does that, roll, start rolling, whack across the face. So when you go down and you see him shaking, the hand is shaking. That is literally from the whack across the face.
I love that. I love like small little details like that where like they're kind of holding hands and he's kind of like
squeezing.
And he's almost like trying to, like, it's Dyer that's like squeezing and Damien is kind of like spreading his hand, like kind of let go almost, you know, because like that's the thing, like we figure that he does kill himself to kind of like end the demon cycle with him, but like there's 2 more movies, so
that's actually the major plot point of that film is like that really does force you to think like if you didn't have anything else but The Exorcist, that would be a perfect standalone film. Like it doesn't need anything else. Same as Halloween. Same as like it's chapter
like,
1. Like
it's one of those like standalones that the first was so good that like any sequel kind of can't compare. Like even if it was excellent, you know, like Jaws 2 is a great movie, but you compare it to the first Jaws, and it doesn't even stand a chance.
No, it doesn't.
Exactly.
So then we get to like final scenes. Sometime later, Chris and her housekeeper Sharon are saying their final goodbyes, and Sharon hands Chris the medal that she found out. She found the medal that Father Keras found at the start. And then Chris tries to give it to Father Dyer, and he says no, and he gives it back to her, so they keep it. And then
she kisses him.
Yeah, and then Reagan comes up and just gives him a little like on the side. And then they drive off to go back to LA.
And the priest go and have
sex
sex in a hotel somewhere.
Have lunch. He makes them the same offer, and they walk off to get quote lunch as credits roll. And
I wonder about Kinderman.
Followed by Christoph Penderecki's score.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, like this movie in particular, I mean, apart from I can think of maybe, I don't know, The Shining or you know, things like Scream or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, these films that change the cultural zeitgeist of the time to not necessarily open people's minds, but change the way people look at certain things or view certain things. And that's like why I wanted you on this podcast in particular, because like I said earlier, you were there.
I was there.
Happened,
yes.
And when this became such a cultural iconic moment. So like if you could just briefly tell me, like, what did you think, or did you have an experience with it, or
I mean,
when did you go see it? Did you see it in the cinema?
No, I didn't go see it in the cinema.
Anticlimactic.
No, I didn't, because
I've actually never seen it.
I don't remember. I don't think I was interested in when it came to Ireland in 1974. I mean, I didn't leave home till 1979. So 1974. I mean, I was just too young. It wasn't in my mind. But 1979, 1980. I was out working, and by the time it came to Ireland, then in 1998, I knew about it then, but back in the 80s, it was out in
nasty, wasn't it?
It was out
banned.
on.
It was banned.
It was banned.
Because we're a huge Catholic country. They said no, you can't have that here.
But we got a hold of a VHS.
Oh, of course,
right?
of course.
And,
Somehow, if you want it, you're gonna get
Gotta
it.
hold to it,
Somebody got a hold of a VHS, and it was all secretive. So we all
Was it
had
one
to.
of your sisters, or was it a friend?
I don't know. I
Was
don't
it a
know. But
boyfriend
I
at the
went
time?
with.
Yo, you got any Friedkin in the back of your car? Yeah, before you got caught.
No, I went with Paul and his sisters, and we went up to. It was held in a bar. Would you believe it? In their club. It was like a clubhouse in the bar, and went in and sat down, and I don't know how many creme de menthe frappes, and I sat there. Lights went off, and pints then were lined up for everybody, and action.
That
And
sounds
the
like
movies,
a good time.
the movie started, and I'll have to be honest, I was shitting bricks.
And how did
Shitting
you feel
bricks.
after it?
I was really scared.
Were you?
Yeah, I was really scared. Went home, and at the time I was living in a dingy flat, and it was out the back of this fabulous house, but it was a dingy flat, and of course I had a rat in
Of course,
the flat.
I remember
Yes,
you telling me this.
in the
yeah.
kitchen.
You had a tiny apartment. It was tiny.
Yeah, it was tiny. And I had this rat that used to come into the cupboard in the kitchen. And the kitchen was like the size of the toilet. And
We have a tiny toilet.
this is
Tiny
tiny.
bathroom.
Tiny.
Teeny tiny.
Teeny tiny. And it
pimple
was
of a room,
scratching.
really.
And of course you're thinking everything. I don't know, I think for weeks I slept with the light on.
Yeah.
And
So it unsettled you.
yeah, oh, very much so. And scary music, no way was I having scary music or anything like a thriller or anything like that. Nothing like that played with me for weeks because I was shitting bricks.
Yeah.
The Ouija boards out the
Stayed
window.
away from them.
Yeah, stay away.
Yeah.
But when I look at it now, I'm thinking, what the fuck was I complaining about?
It's
Because-
really tame when you look back on it.
Well,
As
it is
compared
really
to
tame.
today's standards.
Because you know why?
Because their cultural zeitgeist changed.
yeah.
Ours.
Like, I think the most shocking thing is the masturbation scene with the crucifix, just
Yeah.
because it's a child.
It's
That
a
to me is
child.
so,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
they kind of wouldn't do that now. I feel
Yeah.
like that's the only thing that, like, where we haven't really
It's a
seen that again.
taboo,
Yeah.
really, because it walks a very fine line
Yeah.
between, like, almost child porn.
Like, what's what's
you know,
appropriate.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
appropriate
Yeah.
to show and what is just bad, poor taste.
But then I suppose you get into the point of, like, it's supposed to be shocking. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Oh, and
like,
it did shock.
Exactly,
It did
yeah.
shock.
Yeah.
And, like, that's what, like, I'm
did its
like,
job.
I'm glad we, like, had all that time between us and The Exorcist coming out. Because, like, again, even seeing it as a child,
Yeah.
that was one of the movies where it was like, oh my god, I'm going to watch The Exorcist.
Yeah.
There's like The
Yeah.
Omen, or that, like, another kind of curse, or Rosemary's Baby as well was
Yeah.
another movie
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
yeah, yeah.
not allowed to watch,
Yeah.
which made it all the more
Yeah.
okay, but now I have to, because like
Yeah, it was curiosity. Yeah.
exactly, there's something in here you don't want me to see,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, The Exorcist was one of
Yeah.
those that had a reputation, like, because it's like, how bad is this if it was illegal?
Yeah.
Like, you're
Yeah.
not allowed to
Yeah.
watch this. You're not allowed to own a copy of
Yeah,
this.
but you know what I can't understand it? In America, you could bring your kids to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
You
see,
know, it
that's
wasn't a
actually,
problem.
I actually know. See, what they did is they had rated X, rated R,
Yeah.
and then rest of it was between 16s and PG. Because
Yeah.
there was
PG
no
hadn't
18.
been invented yet. PG was invented for Gremlins.
Yeah, there you go.
Because
Really?
They had a weird kind of like.
PG-13 was invented for
You know.
Gremlins because Jaws is PG.
Yeah.
Like, that's rated. It's on the poster it says maybe too intense for small children. But it's like, yeah, there's a child that gets eaten in the first like 40 minutes of the movie, you know?
Yeah.
So it's it was a film that what the directors did and what the producers did was they pushed like scenes like obviously the spider walk down the stairs they cut out in order to drop the rating.
Yeah.
The restricted rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order to facilitate a wider audience.
Yeah.
Exactly. If your shit was rated X, you were not getting distribution. Nobody's going to see that.
Yeah.
That's why, like, Evil Dead went through, like,
So many different rate changes.
exactly, like,
So
they have,
many.
I'm pretty sure it's the first or second Evil Dead where they make up a company. They make up a distribution company because
They couldn't get it
they
in.
couldn't get it at all. So
Yeah.
they just had to put a fake one on front of it so it could be shown in theaters. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, to me, Evil Dead is, like, the video nasty. Like, that's the one
Of
that,
course,
like,
yeah.
no, you can't watch this. No Sam Raimi parties over here. You
Yeah.
can't see this shit.
But, like, I mean, this was a film that I don't think you let us watch. When we were kids, I don't think you ever let us watch it. The only time I really remember watching this film, at least with you or my dad, was from about maybe 13 onwards, 12 or 13. Because I'd seen other horror movies up until that point, but that was the movie. There was something about that, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We were very avid that we didn't watch either of those.
Yeah.
But, like, after a while, you sort of gave in with The Exorcist.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would, like, because, like, yeah, like, we've seen, like, a billion horror movies when we were kids, but, like, I don't know if I would have enjoyed The Exorcist as a kid, because, like, not to be, like, whatever, but, like, it's kind of more boring than you think it would be.
Yeah.
Because, like, all the good stuff is, like,
Happens
a minute long
more
scene
than
and
halfway
then right
through
at
the
the
movie.
end.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I would have enjoyed The Exorcist as a child. I think, like, yeah, it's
Actually,
more.
yeah,
it's when
it
you can
was-
appreciate more as you grow older.
Yeah, it was a movie that when I was younger, more than half the stuff at the beginning I didn't understand. Didn't know what was going on.
Well, that's what
Didn't
I was
get it.
saying. It's not really a
It was
horror.
just
It's more
the
a
images.
psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The images that were stuck in my head. So, like, Reagan elevating off the bed.
Yeah.
The Pazuzu face, the statue.
Yeah.
You know, her masturbating with the crucifix, the spider walk. Those are the scenes that would have stayed
Yeah.
in my head
Yeah.
rather than the actual content of the
Yeah.
story at
Yeah.
the beginning. Because obviously, being a 12-year-old, you don't really get what's going on
No.
most
No,
of the
you
time.
don't really put it together for yourself.
So,
But
exactly.
that's what the audience in '74 were. They were. I did not understand what half of them were talking about. It was just the visions that I was seeing.
Yeah.
That's all I was seeing.
And your
I
reaction
could,
to
and
them.
my reaction to it, what they were talking about.
Fainting, puking,
Yeah.
I love that though.
walking
The
out
idea.
of the theater in
Yeah.
disgust and needing to go
Yeah.
see a priest.
Yeah.
We've only ever been to one movie where that's ever happened, where we went to go see the remake of Suspiria, and there's
Yeah.
a particularly graphic. I would say, like,
She's seen it.
Oh,
The
yeah,
see
OC.
the
where she's
remake of
been-
Suspiria,
oh.
yeah, where she's being contorted.
Yes.
People, I would say, like 10 people at least
Walked out
got
of that
up
scene.
and left and
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
came back in. But I was like,
Me
I've
and him
never
were
been-
standing
we
there
were
being like,
"Ew."
yeah, we're
I,
awesome.
I'd never
my
been in a
mouth
movie
was
before.
open at that now.
Oh, it is
Really.
shocking. It's one of
It
those
is.
where, like,
Yeah.
I'm very,
And it goes
very
on
hard
for
to
at
shock
least
and kind
7 minutes.
Yeah.
That whole
It's,
scene
yeah,
goes on
it's
for about
long,
7
and you
minutes.
see everything,
Yeah.
and
It's the bones cracking and the
And then when she, like,
yeah.
it's the, like
Yeah.
she can't
Yeah.
breathe. That's
Yeah.
the, like,
Yeah.
oh,
But it's
And yet I
still
haven't got a
alive.
fucking clue what it was about.
Yeah.
She's
Really.
still alive. Dance. You gotta dance. The life of a competitive ballerina, I guess.
Well, Tom York plays in the background. But that's exactly why Exorcist has the same thing. It's extremely graphic, and that's why for its time, obviously, it shocked you, but for us, it's very tame.
Yeah.
Because it was your shock that leads to what doesn't shock us
Yeah.
and what shocks
Yeah.
us now. Because, like, I hate doing it, but I'll reference Rick and Morty here, where the mother says, like, I was traumatized as a kid when this person killed this person. And the daughter responds going, bitch, my generation gets traumatized on a daily basis. So, like, I always reference that kind of those two quotes when someone says something like that, because that was absolutely, like, to you, like, your generation was horrified by
Yeah.
it.
Like, there was
And,
nothing
like,
to
when I
compare
was
to.
younger, I would have been horrified by it. But now, if I was to watch things like that, I'd be like, that is pretty meh.
Yeah, like, if
to
I
what I'm
watched The
seeing
Exorcist for the
nowadays.
first time in my life last night,
You would have been like, yeah, it was a good movie.
yeah.
You
Yeah, it
would
was
have
a
been
good
too
movie.
shocked.
Like, obviously, it's very
Maybe the
enjoyable.
masturbating scene might have been a little bit kind of like
But
pushing
even
it.
still,
but
I
like,
think that's the one thing that, like, stands out even today as being like, oh shit. Like,
true.
they got a little
Yeah.
girl out here doing shit like that with a
Yeah.
crucifix.
And
Yeah.
smacking her mother
And-
around.
But, like, but she does, like, some shit like that in the movie there. Like,
Yeah.
she, like, puts her mom's head, like,
Yeah, down there, yeah.
where it goes. And, yeah,
Yeah.
right in between me down there.
For me,
very kind of like,
today, this morning, watching it for the first time.
in quite
right,
a long time, to be fair.
Since in what, 20 odd years.
Really?
Right?
I didn't
30
think it was that
years?
long.
Yeah,
I thought it might
yeah,
have been
yeah,
a year or
yeah.
two, but like, wow.
Because I have not watched that movie since then. And I remember last night, you asked me to watch it last night. I was afraid to. Literally afraid to. Even though I knew, I'd done my homework and I knew how everything was made up. I was still afraid to watch it.
Yeah.
And then when I watched it today, I thought, you know what, I think when you do that, when you find out how a movie is made, it takes the goodness, it takes the excitement out, the curiosity out of the movie.
Yeah.
And so it was a bit of a letdown, to be honest.
I feel like that's where we fucked ourselves with horror. Was
we've seen all the good shit very early on.
Exactly. Like I as a kid was a big special features. I want to know how they made that, what it looks like outside of the movie. How did they get this to go there? What did they do to this person to get it to look like that? And it kind of it removes the magic out of it.
The magic out of it,
And that's the thing. I'm still very easily satiable by something that looks cool, but it's not going to leave such a lasting effect on me now because I know that's fucking latex. Even if I know 100% it doesn't look latex-ish, I know what it is. So movie magic, you gotta keep a little bit of that for yourself if you want movies to remain the same way. Yeah. It takes a lot to shock us nowadays. Yeah. When it comes to horror.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only one that really freaked me out is that one there. It's the one with. You can't. It's not the Entity. It's not Poltergeist.
I just watched the Entity 2 months ago.
Oh, did you?
The soundtrack to that.
So the boom 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 boom. That is. I actually seen that movie twice. The first time I seen it on my own, scared the shit out of me.
It's very, very
Second
intense.
time I seen it with my sister, scared the shit out of me, and I had to drive home. Right? It's the music. It's just the music that and it's also the fact of not knowing. There's something there, but you can't see it, or you can't.
There's also nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do.
It's not even
and it's
not even a man. It's just an entity.
An entity.
A form, a shape. Yeah. It's so scary. So that's another one where the reputation kind of preceded itself. Yeah. Where I was more freaked out before I even started watching the movie. And even though kind of fuck all happens in that movie, you're waiting for something to happen from start to finish. So you're always
on edge. Yeah, you're always on edge.
You never know when something is going to drop. That's the thing that I want from horror, is to oh shit. Yeah. What's going to happen? Come on, it's almost there. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
So, thank you so much for doing this with me, Mom. I really appreciate
it
with us. Sorry.
Our first official guest.
Our first official guest.
It's been an honour and a pleasure. And how much do I get paid?
Well, you can collect your check at the door.
I'll follow you back on Insta
at Fun Cookie, or all of our connections.
Yeah.
Of course, my name is Nathan.
My name is Lee.
And you have been listening to They're Here. Good discussion. Disembowelment.
Disembowelment.
We're still learning that one.